I've been thinking about lies lately, not the small ones we tell to spare feelings, but the grand ones, the ones that reshape reality itself. I'm Adrian Vale, and for nearly 6 decades, I've watched the world transform in ways I never imagined. But nothing has unsettled me quite like this. We live in an age where truth has become negotiable. Here's the paradox that keeps me awake. We have more access to information than any generation in human history, yet we seem more confused about what's true than ever before. How did we get here? More importantly, why do fake news stories spread faster than truth? Why do they work? Today, I want to take you on a journey through epistemology, the philosophy of knowledge, to understand why our minds are so vulnerable to deception, and what we can do about it without losing our faith in truth altogether. Because here's what I've learned in my travels, both physical and intellectual. The problem isn't just out there in the media or social networks, it's in here. Taps temple, in the very architecture of how we think. Let's start with the basics. What is knowledge? It sounds like a simple question, but philosophers have wrestled with it for millennia. The classical definition, going back to Plato, says that knowledge is justified true belief. 3 components. First, you must believe something. Second, it must actually be true. And third, you must have good justification for believing it. Let me give you an example. I believe the sun will rise tomorrow. Is it true? Yes. Am I justified in believing it? Absolutely, based on consistent observation, astronomical science, the laws of physics. So I can say I know the sun will rise tomorrow. But here's where it gets interesting. In the age of social media, we've kept the belief part, but we've lost the other two. We believe things passionately, share them widely, build our identities around them, without asking, is this actually true? Or, what's my justification for believing this? The philosopher Edmund Gettier complicated this definition in 1963, showing that even justified true belief can be problematic. But today, we're not even reaching that baseline. We're operating in what some call post-truth, where feelings matter more than facts, where sincerity trumps accuracy. So why? Why have we abandoned these epistemic standards? The answer lies in how our brains actually work versus how we think they work. Here's an uncomfortable truth. Your brain isn't designed to find truth. It's designed to keep you alive, to help you belong, to conserve energy. And sometimes, often actually, those goals conflict with accuracy. Let me introduce you to confirmation bias. This is our tendency to seek out, interpret, and remember information that confirms what we already believe, while dismissing or forgetting information that contradicts it. I saw this firsthand in a village in rural India years ago. 2 groups, separated by religion, witnessed the same event, a dispute over land. I interviewed both sides. Each group had a completely different story, not because they were lying, but because they literally saw different things. Their prior beliefs filtered reality itself. Confirmation bias isn't stupidity, it's efficiency. Your brain processes about 11 million bits of information per second, but your conscious mind can only handle about 40. So your brain uses shortcuts, heuristics, to decide what's important. And what does it deem important? Information that fits your existing worldview. This is why fake news works so brilliantly. It doesn't have to convince you of something new. It just has to confirm what you already suspect. Then there's tribalism. We are, at our core, social creatures. For 99% of human history, being expelled from your tribe meant death. So we evolved powerful instincts for group belonging. We adopt the beliefs of our tribe, we defend them fiercely, and we view outsiders with suspicion. Social media has weaponized this ancient instinct. Every platform sorts us into tribes, echo chambers where everyone thinks like us, talks like us, shares our outrage. The algorithm learns what keeps you engaged, and engagement means showing you content that triggers emotion, particularly anger and fear. And here's the crucial part. When information comes from your tribe, you lower your epistemic guard. You don't scrutinize it the same way. A study from MIT found that false news spread 6 times faster than true news on Twitter. Why? Because fake news is often more novel, more emotional, more shareable. It's optimized for our cognitive vulnerabilities. The philosopher C.T. Nguyen calls this epistemic bubbles versus echo chambers. A bubble is when you simply don't hear other perspectives. An echo chamber is more insidious. It's when you've been taught to distrust everything outside the chamber. You're not just isolated, you're inoculated against correction. Now, I need to be careful here, because there's a legitimate question underneath all this. Who gets to decide what's true? Who are the gatekeepers of knowledge? For centuries, we had epistemic authorities, institutions we trusted to tell us what was real. Universities, newspapers, scientific establishments. And yes, these institutions sometimes failed us. They've been wrong, they've been biased, they've excluded voices. The democratization of information through the internet was supposed to fix this. Everyone could be a publisher, a fact-checker, a truth-teller. And in many ways, that's been beautiful. I've seen citizen journalists expose corruption. I've seen communities share knowledge that traditional media ignored. But we threw out the baby with the bathwater. We didn't just question authority, we abolished the very concept of expertise. We created a false equivalence, your opinion versus my opinion, as if all opinions are equally valid, regardless of evidence, training, or methodology. The philosopher Harry Frankfurt wrote about this in On Bullshit. He distinguished between lying and bullshitting. A liar knows the truth and deliberately contradicts it. A bullshitter doesn't care about truth at all. Truth is irrelevant to their purpose. And that's what we're drowning in, not lies, but bullshit. Content created not to inform or even to deceive, but to manipulate, to get clicks, to trigger engagement, to sell something, to gain power. When everything is questioned, when all sources are equally suspect, when expertise is just elitism, we don't become more enlightened. We become paralyzed. Or worse, we retreat into our tribes and believe whatever our tribe tells us to believe. This is the epistemic crisis of our age. Not that we lack information, but that we lack shared standards for evaluating it. We've lost the common ground where we can even begin to discuss what's true. So what do we do? How do we navigate this landscape without either becoming cynical nihilists who believe nothing, or naive tribalists who believe everything our side tells us? I want to propose something that might sound paradoxical. Intellectual humility. Not weakness, not wishy-washy relativism, but a rigorous practice of epistemic virtue. Intellectual humility means recognizing the limits of your own knowledge. It means holding your beliefs provisionally, proportional to the evidence. It means being willing to say, "I don't know," or even more powerfully, "I was wrong." I've been wrong about many things in my 58 years. I've changed my mind about politics, about philosophy, about people. And you know what? Each time I became a little wiser, not because I found certainty, but because I found better questions. Here are some practices I've developed. First, seek out steelman arguments, not straw men. Don't look for the weakest version of opposing views. Find the strongest, most charitable interpretation. Engage with the best arguments against your position. Second, diversify your information diet. Deliberately read sources you disagree with. Not the outrage bait, but thoughtful perspectives from different traditions. Discomfort is where learning happens. Third, check your emotional response. When you see a headline that makes you immediately angry or triumphant, pause. That's your tribal brain activating. Ask, why am I reacting this way? What do I want this to be true? Fourth, trace the provenance. Where did this information come from? What's the original source? How many times has it been filtered through interpretation? Primary sources matter. Fifth, embrace uncertainty. Not everything requires an immediate opinion. It's okay to say, "I need to learn more about this." In fact, it's often the wisest response. And here's the crucial part. This isn't just about being a better consumer of information. It's about being a better human being. Because epistemology isn't just about what we know. It's about who we become in the process of knowing. I want to end with something important. Hope, because I know this all sounds rather dark. Cognitive biases, tribal warfare, the death of truth. But I've lived long enough to know that humans are capable of remarkable things. We can learn, we can adapt, we can build better systems and cultivate better habits. The fact that you're watching this, thinking about these questions, that's already a step toward epistemic virtue. The philosopher Miranda Fricker talks about epistemic injustice, the ways people are wronged specifically in their capacity as knowers. Some voices are systematically ignored or discredited. Part of our work is creating epistemic communities that are more inclusive, more rigorous, more humble. I've seen these communities. I've sat in circles from Mongolia to Morocco where people with deep disagreements still manage to talk, to listen, to learn from each other. Not because they abandoned their convictions, but because they held them with open hands rather than clenched fists. The opposite of post-truth isn't naive certainty, it's committed fallibilism, the recognition that while truth exists and matters, we're all fumbling toward it together and we need each other to get closer. Fake news works because it exploits our vulnerabilities, but those same vulnerabilities, our need for belonging, our desire for meaning, our capacity for belief, these are also our strengths when properly directed. We can build new institutions, new practices, new norms. We can teach media literacy, critical thinking, epistemic humility. We can design platforms that reward accuracy over engagement, depth over virality, truth over tribalism. Will it be easy? No. Will it happen overnight? Absolutely not. But the alternative, surrendering to post-truth, accepting that reality is just whatever your tribe says it is, that's not acceptable. Not if we want to solve the complex problems facing our world. Not if we want to leave something better for those who come after us. So here's my challenge to you. For the next week, practice intellectual humility. When you encounter information, especially information that confirms what you already believe, pause. Ask, how do I know this? What would it take to change my mind? Am I seeking truth or just confirmation? It's uncomfortable work, but the most important work usually is. Truth matters, knowledge matters, and in a world drowning in information, wisdom matters most of all. Thank you for thinking with me today. Until next time, stay curious, stay humble, and keep questioning.